of college basketball. Yeah. What a heartbreaker last night.
Yes.
Anyone who listens to this show, hopefully you know, I went to Northwestern University, and Northwestern has a good basketball team and an improving basketball program. They've never made the NCAA tournament. They have a real chance. According to Joe Lunardi, they still have a real chance, but last night was a huge game at home against Michigan, and it goes to overtime, and they lose. I've said many times that I went to every basketball game when I was a student at Northwestern, and I've many times apologized to the legendary Bob Knight for all the things I yelled at him from the student section when he was then coaching at Indiana, and he joins us now on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're well, but I'm brokenhearted about my beloved Wildcats, who had a really good shot last night and fall just short in overtime with a very tough loss. They remain on the bubble and unfortunately probably on the wrong side of the bubble.
Well, maybe they get a couple games in the tournament. I'd like to see them get there also. But I need to ask you guys a question.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about quarterbacks yesterday.
Yes.
How come people don't talk about Otto Graham? I want you to look up Otto Graham's record with the Cleveland Browns and see if you can find a quarterback that won more championships than Otto Graham did.
You will not. They won it practically every year in those days with Dante Lavelli and Max Speedy and guys like that.
Whenever we start talking quarterbacks, that's the name that always comes up that we say we don't know what to do with that name because we never saw him play. And quite honestly, a lot of our audience probably didn't see him play either. So it's tough to figure where he goes in the equation.
But you know, a lot of your audience never saw Babe Ruth play either.
That's true.
And he's a name they know. You're right. Now, the lineage of quarterbacks goes for guys like Sammy Baugh, Sid Luckman, Otto Graham, on through Unitas and Bart Starr and names like that. And you're right that generally, Coach, we live in a world where the Super Bowl changed everything. Nothing that happened before the Super Bowl seems to matter in pro football in the minds of most. Anyway.
Yeah, but you guys are too good to live in that age. You should be beyond that age, as smart as you two are.
We're really not.
No, we're not. We're not nearly good enough for that. No, we need all kinds of help.
Yeah.
All right, I want to get your expertise from a coaching perspective, be it the college level or the pro. And right now, this question really pertains to the pro level. And the New York Knicks are trying to do something very complicated. Everyone is so excited about this new Lin sanity, this Jeremy Lin phenomenon. But the reality is the Knicks are trying to blend a lot of pieces together in a very short period of time. There's a total of about 5 guys that at one time or another have practically never played together who are now all trying to come together. As a coach, Bob Knight, tell us about the challenges and realistically how quickly you can blend players and everyone figure out roles.
Well, here's the thing that Lin brings to the game more than anything else. He sees the floor. He knows where people are. He gets the ball to them. He's got great vision, and he's got a great ability to get the ball to people that are open. There isn't anything more important in putting a team together than the guy who handles the ball most of the time having the ability to see the floor and see people when they're open. And more than that, even get the ball to them in such a way that they're able to do something with it. And I think they become way ahead of the pack with the ability that kid has in doing just what I've talked about. Then other people have got to be able to get themselves open, work to get open, and they got to be ready when he sees them and ready to do something once the ball has gone into their possession.
As far as from a coach's standpoint, Mike D'Antoni, the coach of the Knicks, talks about in the break, All-Star break, he has 4 or 5 practices he's going to have because they don't have a ton of practices because of the lockout. So from a coach on the floor in those practices, what are some of the first things you would do to try and get cohesiveness on the court?
Well, I think that you go through some 5-on-nobody work where there isn't any defense, where everybody's just cutting and moving and people are looking for one another, and you've got everybody. With that kid, you've got to be alert because he makes a lot of passes to people that have got to know that the pass is coming. And so being alert with the other 4 guys when that kid has the ball is going to be very, very important. And I don't think it's something that's all that difficult. You know that he can pass the ball. You know that he can see. So you're just going to be ready for it.
Mike and Mike and the legendary Bob Knight. I smiled when you said that because you make a joke. 5-0 with no defense is usually how people describe playing against Mike D'Antoni's teams, but that's a joke we'll make another time. All right, let's go to the college level. We've got a few weeks left here. We head into the conference tournaments and all that sort of thing as teams get ready for Selection Sunday. 4 teams on the bubble, and I'm sure you had teams there at various times over the years. Can you describe what this little period of time is like, these games in late February where every game may very well wind up making the difference?
You know, what I think is the absolute most important thing for anybody playing now, even those teams that seem to be a lock to get into the NCAA tournament, is your practice time. You've been going at this since actually September, when you have the practices, the 2 hours a week or 30-minute practices or whatever. These kids are tired. These kids are 19, 20, 21 years old. They're tired. The most important thing is to reduce your practice time and to reduce the amount of effort that has to be expended in practice situations. I always thought that when we started after Christmas break, say around the 10th or 12th of January, I never wanted to practice longer than an hour and 30 minutes. And then as we got closer and closer to the end of the season, I wanted us to be in as good a physical condition as we could be and be rested. You know, as you know, I've always been a tremendous opponent of the postseason tournaments. I think that I don't even know what they're for. I don't know what anybody gains by playing in them. And maybe that's why my teams were never particularly good at that point. But then we usually went on to do fairly well in the NCAA. And I think more than anything else, you have to let these kids have a chance to let their legs get ready, to let their legs kind of get rejuvenated, and don't wear them out. That, to me, is by far the most important thing.
Players today know where they stand through all the social media out there and the reports. They see where their team supposedly sits. How much do you, as a coach, talk about that before those games, those important games?
Well, I would always talk about games. The thing where I would talk about important games was this way, Mike. Let's say that we just won a really good game. It could be any time in the season. What I wanted them to do was get focused on the next game. And what I would say is this. I'd say, hey, boys, we have won a great game today, but it isn't going to mean anything if we get beat on Saturday. We've got to focus on Saturday. I always called the idea the last game, next game theory. And most coaches have a difficult time getting on to the next game, whether it's football or basketball. You know, they have a tendency to kind of maybe pat themselves on the back a little bit, the coaches. Let's see who's going to write about what a brilliant game plan I had. And when you watch teams that win a big game for them, always look to see how they do the next game. And one of the most difficult things for coaches, and it's a rarity, is being able to get your team focused quickly on the next game.
It's Bob Knight. He joins us every Wednesday at this time on our way through the NCAA tournament. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, man. Have a nice day.
That's Bob Knight with us on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Wake up to February at Subway. Any of your favorite breakfast footlongs are $5 footlongs. And by the way, I know a few things about Otto Graham. I've told you before, my dad is very much the same way. There's no time that we talk about quarterbacks that my father does not yell at me that we did mention Otto Graham. So I know all about Dante Lavelli. I know all about Max Speedy. I know all about those teams in the 50s. And you know what else I know about Otto Graham?
What's that?
Where'd he go to college?
Oh, no.
What do you mean, oh, no?
Where did he go to college?
He went to Northwestern.
I know you were going to say that. I don't,
Why would you have this dismissive attitude? I got to hear about everyone who ever went to Notre Dame constantly.
It's just the same, because usually all the greatest of all time players, a lot of times, they go to real colleges.
Yeah, I don't understand why you would have that perspective.
Wow.
That's not nice.
I know.
You know what you are?
What?
You're not nice.
I was mean there.
You know what you aren't?
What?
Nice.
Okay.
Chris Broussard inside the Laker trouble on the way. Mike and Mike back in 3 minutes.